We are now in a recording mode, so we are going to get this show on the road. All right, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys happen to be. Hopefully your week has started out well and all is great. Today, our webinar is going to be on staying up to date with System Center Configuration Manager. And for those of you that attended any of my other webinars earlier this year on Configuration Manager, the new release, we're talking about the new release. And I'll cover that in a moment. And I see a lot of familiar names out there, so thanks for coming back. My name is Wally Mead. I'm a Principal Program Manager / Product Owner with Cyrusson. Came from Microsoft, where I'd spent 22 years there in the Configuration Manager product group. So I'd worked with all different releases of Configuration Manager starting before SMS 1.0 was called SMS 1.0. You got my email address and our Cyrusson email address on the front page. So what we want to talk about today is how do you keep Configuration Manager up to date? And again, I'm talking about the new release of Configuration Manager, not Configuration Manager 2007 or Configuration Manager 2012. So this is the new product that we'll be talking about and concentrating on in this session. So the process of keeping this up to date with what you guys would know as service packs or cumulative updates is quite changed now. So I want to make sure we cover that so everybody's up to speed on what's happening there and how that is being processed. So that's what the session is going to be about. And it's the new what's called the updates and servicing feature. And I'll walk through that. I'll get into a demo right away to get the update installed for you. Then we're going to talk a little bit about production versus lab versus technical previews. I was just at the Midwest Management Summit last week, and there was a lot of confusion about that, and I've seen that on the forums and other places, people being confused about what releases are available to what. So I want to spend some time talking about that. And then lastly, as part of this updates and servicing feature, I want to talk about client piloting, which is a great way to help you validate new client versions prior to rolling them out into production for your masses. So first things first, again, if you attended any of my previous sessions this year on Configuration Manager, you've seen this slide, but I want to hit it again for any new people. So the official name of this new product is System Center Configuration Manager. There's no date like 2012. There's no version. Sometimes you saw people referring to it as 1511, which is already out of date. Just the product name. Now, most of the time you're seeing people refer to it as Configuration Manager Current Branch. So they're calling it Current Branch, very much like the Windows 10 release that you're familiar with Current Branch for Business, and Long-Term Servicing Branch. So this is what's called the Current Branch release of System Center Configuration Manager. What that means to you is when you're on the forums or talking to product support or talking to others in whatever social media method you're utilizing, you need to be very specific about what version of the product you're working with. Now, the current version of the product that was just released is 1602. My release right now is the original release, which is 1511. And in this session, I'm going to upgrade from 1511 to 1602. And then I'm going to show you another environment that I have that's running a technical preview release, which is already at 1604, I think, and it's going to I can kick off and upgrade to 1605. So I'll talk about that. That's what this session is about, is how this environment is going to receive its updates on a very frequent basis. So that's what we're going to talk about. But again, for reference, this is referring to the current branch release of System Center Configuration Manager. If you're on a 2012 release, still very valuable information for you as you then migrate or upgrade to the current branch release, but not directly applicable to you as of you running the 2012 release. Okay, so we're going to start with the updates and servicing feature, and this is a great way and very easy way for you to discover what new updates are available and to get those updates installed if you choose to do so. So updating Configuration Manager. The feature and the area in the console that you'll see in just a minute is called the updates and servicing feature. And it was specifically designed to help you guys have an easier process for maintaining, keeping up to date your configuration manager implementation. So it's much easier for you to discover what updates are available to you and then run through the installation process than were previous service packs. Microsoft released not that long ago Service Pack 2 for ConfigMan 2012, which was also Service Pack 1 for ConfigMan 2012 R2. And you had to have been following blogs or watching websites or watching webinars or whatever method it was, but you had to go out there and do some discovery to find out when that service pack was available. Then you had to go and download it. Then you had to extract it. Then you had to go walk through the installation process, and there was a new client involved with it, so you had to figure out how you wanted to install your clients. So a lot of things that you had to do there to get your environment up to date with that latest service pack. This process, as you're going to see here momentarily, is way easier than that. This is also going to replace those cumulative updates that you're familiar with from the ConfigMan prior releases, like 2012, which I believe they're up to CU5 now. So there are two different methods to discover what update packs are available to you. The very, very easy way is what's called the online method. There you have a site system that I'll show you has access to the internet, and it's going to automatically discover when there are updates for your site, download them for you automatically, extract them out, and present them in the console for you to go ahead and choose to install if you want to. So very, very simple, easy thing to do. If you're in one of those environments where you're in a disconnected scenario, where your site infrastructure does not have internet access, then there's an offline method that will allow you to access this data, upload what's required, download what's required, and get it staged into your environment from any computer in your environment that has internet access. And I'll walk you through that process as well. Once you've got these updates downloaded and ready to install, they'll appear in your console system, your configuration manager console, where you can track them very easily. What's available, what's already installed. You can choose to install, you can choose to skip. If you choose to install, the in-console monitoring will show you the process of that update procedure. By the way, as I'm talking, I'm not looking at the Q&A panel, so if you guys are going to type in questions, feel free to do so. I'm not going to see them till the end of the presentation, so I apologize for that. I just don't want to get distracted by your Q&A stuff. So. But feel free to ask questions now, and I'll get to them at the end. Put in whatever context as far as what slide it was on or whatever, just so we have better, easier way to answer questions when we get down there. Okay, so for the online mode, I'll walk through the online mode this slide, then I'm going to kick over and jump into my demo and get a site upgrade process installed. Then we'll come back and talk more because it takes a while to get a site installed, updated, I'm sorry. So in the online mode, which is the easiest method for you, there you have something called a service connection point. It's the second indented bullet in the slide. The service connection point is a site system role. It does not have to be on your site server, that is used to upload data to Microsoft and then find out or discover if there are any available update packs for your environment, download them to your environment, extract them out, prepare them for installation, and then get them presented to you in your console for you to go ahead and determine whether or not you want to install them. So that's the hands-off method. That's the automated method. That's the easy method. Just let Configuration Manager do everything on its own. So very, very simple, easy. You just have to have a site system role, the service connection point, that has internet connectivity. And then it's all hands-off. You'll be notified when there's a new update that's available. You go look at it, see if you want to install it, and go through the process I'm going to show you here in just a minute. If that update pack has new features in it, which the one I'm going to demonstrate for you, 1602, does have, you can choose whether or not you want to install the new feature or features. Actually, they're going to install. You're just going to choose whether or not you want to enable them. There may be a scenario where you just want to get the updates, so the hot fixes, the service pack type stuff, the cumulative updates that you're familiar with in the past. You want to get those updates installed, but you don't want to make any new features available to your team yet. Maybe you haven't trained them on the new features. Maybe you just want to be in a basic mode, and most of these new features are going to be maybe a little more advanced or maybe specific to mobile devices. So you want to install them, but really what you want are the updates, the fixes in the product. And then later on, you can go back and decide, okay, I do want this feature, just go ahead and enable it in your environment. And again, I'll show you that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over, get this started, and then we'll come back and talk a lot more. So here is my virtual environment. And let me look at the audience view and make sure you guys are able to see that okay. And there you go. Okay, so you do see my virtual environment now. All right, so I'm zooming in here, and you can see that it does say I'm running build 1511. So this is the original release of System Center Configuration Manager, i.e. the current branch product. So the next release after Configuration Manager 2012. So that's the release I'm running right now. So this is the one I installed a number of months ago that Microsoft released in December of this past year. A couple of things I want to show you before we kick this off, because this will answer a question that people oftentimes have. If I go to the Devices node, and let me just go ahead and clear off some of these columns so it don't have as much clutter there, so we can just see what we really want to see here. Apologize for not clearing those out earlier. So I've got a half dozen clients here. You can see they're all running the same release, which is the 1511 release 8325. I've got 3 of them that are currently online right now, so they're active. But if you notice up here on the ribbon, I have the Remote Manage app. And we had a webinar on this a little over a month ago, almost 2 months ago now, on the Remote Manage app, and it's integrated in. The reason I'm showing you this is a very common question as to when the console gets updated, if it does, during one of these update packs, do your extensions, customizations remain? And I'm going to have this one installed. I also have our ticker app, our announcement app, installed. So if we get to the point where the console gets updated, you should be able to see that these 2 custom features do remain installed after the console gets upgraded. All right, so just wanted to point that out for you, because that gets asked all the time. So to see new updates that are available, you actually will be notified when you start the console. A message will pop up, say, hey, there's new updates available, go look at them. Where you would go find them is in the administration workspace. You would then expand the Cloud Services node, and you click on Updates and Servicing. And then if there are any updates that have been downloaded, you'll see them here in the results pane. And you can see I have 1602 is available. It shows me when it was released. Available means that it's available for installation. You might see a state of downloading. That's where the site is in the process of downloading the binaries that are required to install this update pack. And if you look down at the very bottom of this display, there's a tab. Actually, there's 2 tabs, but the one that's on by default is the Summary tab. You can click on the Features tab to see if there are any features that will be installed with this update. So if I click on the Features tab, you can see that there are a few features here. Apple Volume Purchase Program, iOS app configuration, and so on. So these are new features that will be installed when this update pack does get installed as well. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to install this. So I can either go to the ribbon and do Install Update Pack, or I can right-click, Install Update Pack. It shows me at the very beginning what this update pack is going to update. It's going to update the site server. It's going to update the console. It's got a client update. It's got fixes for known issues, i.e. service pack, i.e. cumulative updates, and then some new features as we saw. Now my environment does have 2 prerequisite warnings for SQL Server memory configuration. So I'm going to choose the option to say ignore those. If you don't and you have any warnings, it's going to stop the installation process to allow you to fix those or validate those warnings. Then you can restart it and they'll be ignored. If there's actually any errors, then obviously it is going to stop. But I have 2 SQL memory configuration things that you've probably seen in other demos of from mine. Okay, then here are those same features, and this is where I get to choose to decide whether or not I want to enable them after installation. And let's just say I don't want any mobile device stuff. So I'm going to turn off the Apple Volume Purchase Program, iOS Activation Lock Management, and iOS App Configuration. All I want is a Windows 10 conditional access with health attestation. Now they're still going to install those other 3 features, they just won't be enabled. And I'll show you that after we get our install done. So click Next. Now, this is part of that client piloting, which is kind of at the end of the presentation, but it's asking me, there is a new client build here, Do I want to update without validating? That's the traditional method you guys have lived with for years, that whenever you install a new update for Configuration Manager, cumulative update or service pack, there's a new build of client. It's going to make that new build your default build, so any new clients you deploy will get that new version of Config Manager automatically. Now you have to still go out there and manually upgrade or somehow upgrade your existing clients, but any new ones will get that new build. This new feature in the current branch product is called pre-production client testing or client piloting. If you want to do that, what you do is you select the option. You then browse to a custom collection. You notice here that the default collections are not available. So no all systems, no all desktop and server clients, all unknown computers, all mobile devices, and also no user collections, so just device collections. So I'm going to take servers, because that's what I have booted up as 3 server computers. And this is a collection of clients that you're going to force to update to this new client build automatically. If you install any other brand new clients, they're going to remain with your currently installed build, which in my case is 1511 or 8325 is the build number. But for these 3 clients, as it said in this collection, they're going to get automatically upgraded to the brand new build, which I think is 8355. We'll see momentarily. So I'm going to do that pre-production client testing. Then I'll show you how to convert this to full production for everybody later on at the end. Normal EULA, so you read your license agreement, click I agree, click next, and it has kicked off the installation process. That's all it is. I didn't have to go find the update pack. The console showed it to me automatically once the site identified that it was available, downloaded the bits, and extracted them out for me. Now, just for reference, it downloads them into this folder called Easy Setup Payload. So inside your installation folder, there's a new folder called Easy Setup Payload. And if I click on that and then expand out that other folder, this looks very familiar to you. This would be just like your CD that you would download in the old days of having a CD, or your ISO that you would download from the volume license servicing site and so on. Because it's downloaded for you automatically and extracted. I didn't do anything. I just had my environment running on the internet. Eventually, when 1602 became available, this popped up in my console for me. So all I had to do was get notified that it was there, and then just kick off the installation process like I just did. So now, once I got it kicked off, you can see here in this location, it says it's installing. Not a lot of information there, but you can go to the monitoring workspace, and then down toward the bottom of the monitoring workspace is a new node called Site Servicing Status. That's where you'll see more detailed information about this installation process. So if I click here, we may have status yet. We do. And right now it says replicating content. If I were in a hierarchy, a CAS with child primaries and maybe secondary sites below that, it's creating a bundle or a package with this update pack to be replicated down to my child sites. So my child primary sites would get updated automatically. I would just have to do this at the CAS, and bingo, my primaries are taken care of for me automatically. Now, secondary sites, I'm in control of when those get updated. Now, if I want more detailed information here, I can go to the ribbon or right-click and click Show Status, and this will pop up with more detailed information. Now, right now, there's not anything until it gets into the checking prerequisite stage, which should be happening fairly quickly. So we'll come back and we'll look at this a little bit later on. We'll see the update process happening. We'll see a lot more data in here in the update pack installation status. We'll give it one more refresh before we move on. And it's still in the replicating content stage. Okay, so we'll come back. It takes generally about 20 minutes for the update pack to get replicated and then installed. And then it's the management point and a couple other things have to happen. So we should get done with this by the time we're done with our session today. All right, so that demo's kicked off. I wanted to kick that off fairly close to the beginning so we had some time to see the end of that, which is the installation success, and then hopefully client piloting and the console getting updated. Okay, so that was the online mode. Online mode, I did nothing other than installing a service connection point, which happened during my site installation, or when you upgrade to Configuration Manager, it asks you for that, and then let it roll. Now, if I'm in an offline mode, so in other words, I'm disconnected, my site infrastructure has no connectivity to the internet, there is a method for that. and that's called the offline servicing mode. So for that, there's a tool called the Service Connection tool. You can use that tool to discover and then prepare updates for installation. Now, this tool only functions when your service connection point is set to an offline configuration, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, the 3 steps that you have to do in order to discover and download any updates with this service connection tool. Number 1 is you have to prepare telemetry data for upload. And I'll talk more about telemetry data on the next couple of slides, but it is an absolute requirement. You have to collect and upload telemetry data to Microsoft before the service connection tool or the online method will be able to identify any updates for your environment. Then, once you've prepared that telemetry data, you connect to the web and you upload your telemetry data. You upload that to Microsoft. As part of that, and that's used to discover for your specific site, your build you're running, let's say 15.11.83.25, there's 1602s available for you. It will then automatically download any applicable update packs for your specific site. Then once you've got them downloaded, you run a third command with the Service Connection tool to import that data into your site for installation. So that's basically taking the downloaded bundle, extracting it, and then inserting that update into the console like we saw in my environment. So steps 1, 2, and 3 are basically doing what would happen in an online mode automatically. You're just having to manually run those steps with the Service Connection tool. There is a fourth option or fourth command line for the Service Connection tool, and that will let you save your telemetry data to a CSV file for offline viewing. So if you have a security team that's concerned about this telemetry data going up to Microsoft, you can prepare it with step number 1, and then you can go ahead and view it with step number 2. It'll create a CSV file for you, and you can see what that looks like. Okay, the telemetry data. This is usage and configuration data for your site that's collected automatically. So it's going to stay, here's your site code, here's your build number. I'm running 8325. It's going to state, here's what operating systems I'm running on my site systems, maybe clients. It's going to state the SQL Server version. A lot of this information is used to help Microsoft determine what platforms the customers are running, so they know, do we need to keep support for this operating system around longer than we expected? For example, they had announced that they were going to be deprecating support for Windows Server 2008 and SQL 2008 at the end of this calendar year. In fact, I had that in my slides for earlier presentation this year. But because of the telemetry data, they've decided they're going to extend that deprecation date out to sometime next year, because there's enough people still running Windows Server 2008 R2 and SQL 2008 R2 that they don't want to cut them off at the end of the year, as was currently the plan, previously the plan. So the more telemetry data you guys provide to Microsoft, the better idea they'll know what you're doing with the product and what features you're using, and they'll be able to create better products for you. So when you first install Configuration Manager, you are given this telemetry data. It's called usage data, is turned on automatically. It defaults to an enhanced mode at installation time, and you can't change that at install time. And that's the middle of the 3 different settings. Now, once your site is installed, then you can change your site, the usage data collection, to either full, everything, or basic, minimal stuff, minimal that's required. There is a TechNet documentation that goes through and shows you every single piece of data that's going to be uploaded to Microsoft, collected and uploaded with each of these 3 different settings. So very, very long, detailed document on that. So you can go ahead and view that if you wish. So the Service Connection tool will send this telemetry data up to Microsoft, and then again, that helps it determine what updates are applicable to you. This telemetry data is also uploaded by the Service Connection point if you're in an online mode. Okay, let me go ahead and step over here and show you a couple things on that. So let's go back into our full screen mode. Let's do a refresh here. We should have some Oh, there we go. So now you can see as we scroll through here, it started prereq checking. It's going through the normal prereq check stuff. I have to zoom out, sorry about that. And so it goes through all the prereq stuff. It all passed that. And then so the last thing it says right now is update package installing. So if I were to turn on, and if I go back here and I refresh back here in the console, get this guy out of the way. It's sitting in right my way. There we go. Get to the refresh button, and we'll see it's in the installing stage. It should be, yeah, installing. If I were to load Task Manager here and go to Details, by now my Configuration Manager services have been shut off. So you see there's no SMS Executive. There's no Site Component Manager. Those services are shut down. And what is running now is a service called CM Update. CM Update is the service that's being utilized by the Updates and Servicing feature to update my site. So this is the service that's currently running. This is my management point and client still running. That will get shut down and updated a little bit later on. And obviously the Ticker app, client app is installed right there. So that's running, but all the rest of the Configuration Manager services are offline right now. So you can just track this through here and you'll see when it is all done. And this status will change to installed when it's all done as well. So we're in an installation process. Okay, so we'll let that continue to go. And let's go look at our service. Oh, other thing I wanted to show you here is if you want to change your telemetry data collection configuration, go to the far left-hand corner. You get this blue rectangle with the white triangle in it. Drop down and go to usage data. And then it will show you your configuration. So you can see right now I'm in an enhanced mode. And it gives you some basic information about what's collected in an enhanced mode. But now that my site's installed, I could change to a basic mode if I want to, or in a full mode. In the full mode, it does tell you that the data could possibly include personal information that existed in memory or log files at the time of capture. But the other methods, they say no PII is collected. But again, the way down here at the bottom, let me zoom out and zoom back in for you. If you click on this link, I'm not on the internet right now, my VMs, but if I were to click on that link, it would take me to the TechNet doc that shows me those 3 different configurations: basic, enhanced, and full, and that gives me a listing of every single data type that's collected for those. So you can go ahead and view that if you wish to. So I can change that after my site's installed. All right, now if I want to look at the service connection tool, I have to, let me show you your installation of the service connection point. So if I go back to administration, go to site configuration, go to servers and site system roles. Let me pull this up a little bit. You see I have this site system role that's new for you guys called the service connection point. If any of you have integrated Configuration Manager 2012 with Windows Intune, you have a Windows Intune connector there. This replaces the Intune connector to interact with the web. So if I go to the properties for the service connection point, you have online mode, which is honestly going to be your easiest method. Let this thing do all the work. You don't have to do anything other than be notified when new updates are available and then install them when you want. Offline mode is for those disconnected environments where I don't have internet connectivity. I have to go out to some other computer that is on the net, on the web, so I can run this tool. And that would be a disconnected environment. The service connection tool will only run if you're in an offline mode. So I'll set mine to offload, click OK. Then where you can run this tool, I'm running it from this folder. So my installation folder is Program Files, Microsoft Config Manager, and then it creates a new folder called CD Latest, SMS Setup, Tools, and in there is the Service Connection Tool. So now if I just run Service Connection Tool /?, it gives me all the 4 different command line options that I have available to me. So the first one I would run is to prepare that telemetry data. So that's this one right here. So I would do a service connection tool -prepare dash usage data dest and give it a destination file, a location for this cab file it's going to create. In this case, it's usage data.cab. Once that's created, I then run the command again, this time with a connect till my data source is that same file, cab file just got created, and I'm going to download any applicable update packs. So my update pack destination and give it a path for that. If I remember correctly, that location needs to be empty. Once I've downloaded any update packs, then I want to import them into my configuration manager environment, and then I would use the dash import my update pack source and then the location of that. And then lastly, if I do want to look at that telemetry data in a CSV file format, there's the command I would run. In fact, I think I still have that on my desktop. I think I did that once. So let me go. I think I did that. I kept it here. D, yep. Go here. And then here's my usage data.cab file. So it created this cab file. And if I go out, then I extract it out to a CSV. And here's just a quick look at some of the data that's in there. Not really that exciting, but you can go ahead and print this out or take this file and give it to your security team or whatever. I think 11 is the number of resources I have. There's a resource ID. Here's my build number, 5.0, which is config man, and then 8325.1000. So not a lot of real good, interesting data in there, but you're welcome to go ahead and look at that if you wish to. My guess is you probably only do it one time and then you'll give up on it. It won't be that exciting to you. But that's what you do. So you go ahead and go to offline mode for your service connection point, run these 3 commands for the service connection tool to prepare your telemetry data, upload it to Microsoft, download any update packs, import those update packs to your console. Once you've done that, then those update packs would appear right where we saw this one I'm running right now. They would appear here and they would look exactly the same way. It would just say available instead of installing right now because we're installing it. It's just a manual process of discovering and downloading those update packs versus the online method where it happens automatically for you. That's really the difference, is that you're in more control over what gets discovered. Now again, when something's discovered does not mean you have to install it. You can choose to ignore these updates if you wish to, and I'll talk about that in a little bit for you. Let's go check and see where we're at here. Okay, so we've gone further. So we're upgrading the database right now. So before it was update package installing. So we're upgrading the database. So we're getting towards the end of that process. This says it started at 8:20 and now it's 8:32. So still got another possibly 10 minutes to go on this. And we still got almost a half an hour on our webinar. So we're in good shape there. So we'll let that guy go and then we'll come back and look some more at what's going on there. Okay, so let's jump into the next topic. Okay, so the next topic, and we'll come back and I'll show you hopefully we'll get to see the ending of that, the completion of that update pack installation and then the console upgrading and so on. But I want to spend some time talking about production and lab environments and technical preview, because there's been a lot of confusion out there in the community about what these guys really are and what they're doing and when I see what's available. So will your production environment and your lab environment ever be the same? So the product group is creating updates for production environments. So that's what I have right here. 1602 is a production ready installation or install pack, update pack. So it's designed and created specifically enabled for production level deployments. So 1511 is your original release. You're always going to install 1511, whether you're installing a brand new site or whether you're doing an in-place upgrade from ConfigMan 2012, SP1, SP2, R2, R2, SP1, you're going to go to 1511. Then if you want to go to 1602, you're going to use this updates and servicing feature. So 1511 is the what's called baseline build right now. They may create a new baseline in the future, but as of right now, 1511 is it. So that's your production build. 1602, as I'm installing right now, is a production build. It's the first and only update for production. So you got your base 1511, and you can upgrade to one thing that's 1602, excuse me. So what's applicable for you is determined by the telemetry data set up to Microsoft automatically or the service connection tool. There's also now a technical preview, and they actually had this prior to the RTM. So way back in the middle of last year, the product group started creating technical previews. These are like alpha/beta versions of the Configuration Manager product with different builds of them. And ever since they created the first one, I think it was in 1509, so somewhere around late summer, the September timeframe, they've had a monthly update for technical preview. So your technical preview environment is going to be updated or available to have an update on a monthly basis. Your production environment is going to be every 3 to 4 months, figure roughly every 4 months. So 1511. So the 1511 is the first 2 digits are the year it was released, 15 for 2015, and the 11 is the month, not that the update was released, when it was completed. So it was November of 2015 is when the RTM of Configuration Manager was done. Now it wasn't made generally available until December, but it was still completed in November. 1602 means in February of this year, they finished off the coding of this version. It didn't get released, as you saw in the console, until was it, March 9th, I think it was. So it takes a while for final testing on that final build and so on before they make things available publicly. But on a technical preview basis, every single month they've had a new update for us to test out in specific type of lab environments. So this is where things get confusing. You guys are going to have your production environment. And if you want to play with new features, you're going to have a technical preview environment. Those two environments are running different code bases, different versions. Production updates, 1602, will never be available for a tech preview environment. Now, there was a 1602 tech preview, but it was not the same 1602 that I'm installing now, just because it had a tech preview and that was made available in February, or it was finished in February. Tech preview updates will never be available for a production environment. And this is where it gets more concerning or confusing, because tech preview and updates are available on a monthly basis. And you're never going to see them in your production environment. You're only going to see those production updates, 1602, and then maybe 1606 and 1610. You're not going to see the 1603, 1604, 1605, because those are tech preview, and they'll only appear in a tech preview environment. So what that means is that bottom bullet point. If you want to test upcoming unreleased updates and features, you will need to have a different lab environment that's on a different code base than your production environment. So you have production running 1511, and I'm upgrading to 1602. Then you have tech preview that is originally 1510, that could be upgraded to 1511, 1512, 1602, and so on. So what I think you're going to do is, the question is, how many different environments should you have? In my answer, you should have 3. That all you guys would have 3 different Configuration Manager environments for different purposes. You're obviously going to have your production environment. That's where you're managing your production clients. So that's your go-to environment. You should have a lab that matches production. So the exact same build, the exact same configuration, obviously a smaller set of clients, but a representative set of clients that you have in production that you do your modeling on. You test out all your configurations, you test out all your deployment objects, your patches and so on in your lab environment, and then you move those over to production, whether you use a migration tool, export, import, whatever it is, or recreate. So you should always have those two. Lab and production mirror each other. And obviously production is the final one you go to after you've done all your quality control testing. Now, if you want to test out these new features and new updates and so on, you're going to have a third site, and that's the technical preview site. It's a different code base than is your lab and your production environment. So then the other two. Now, I say it's a different code base. It's technically the same code. It's just configured differently to not see production updates and only see these technical preview stuff. The technical preview environments are limited, 60 days. So they only last for a total of 60 days before you have to upgrade them to some update. You can only have 10 clients in them. You're restricted on the type of clients, the operating systems, the SQL Server versions. It's a standalone primary site, so no hierarchy. So there's a lot of limitations to a technical preview environment because they're there simply to allow you to view and provide feedback on features that the product group is thinking about releasing to you in the future. So hopefully you got that clear. Obviously you have production. You should have a lab that matches production for all your QA testing before you move to production. And then if you want to play around with some of this preview stuff, then you're going to have a technical preview site. So let me show you that. I've got a tech preview site that I'm going to RDP over to. Let's go back and check and see where we're at. We got to be getting fairly close. It's been about 20 minutes or somewhere in there. So we're at the very, very end. So we've done our update database, configure SQL Server Broker, and then install system. So we're at the very end of this process, so it'll be done here shortly. So good. Okay, so while that's finishing up, let's go ahead and switch over to my RDP session. So this is a different environment running on my desktop as opposed to my laptop I'm on. If I go to Help About, you can see this is running 1604, and it says for technical preview. This was a TP4, Technical Preview 4 site that I installed long ago, and that was build 1510, so towards the end of last year, and I've updated it. And right now it's running build 8385, which is later, obviously, than what I'm installing right now with 1602. One of the cool things with the technical preview environments is there's a new workspace available to you. You guys are familiar with the assets of compliance and software library, monitoring, and administration. But there's a new What's New workspace. And that shows you for your technical preview environment, in this case it says TP 1604, what are the new things that are in this technical preview environment. So what this lets you do is see things that might be released to production in the future. So I'm trying to scroll slowly here for you. My screen resolution is different. It's on a different system. I can't get it the way I want it. So it shows you the specific feature like client cache size, and 1604 means that's the build it came out in. Some of these it'll say 1512 or whatever, and I'll scroll down a little bit. But you can expand these little chevrons, and it gives you a little bit of information about that. Some of these actually have scenarios with them, like passport for work, or policy settings to disable smart lock and trust agents. And then in the upper right, you have this completed scenarios dialog. So it says 26 scenarios are available in 1604. And right now I've completed one of those. So if I want to complete another scenario, I would just find a scenario I want. It will show you what those scenarios are. You can go look at it. And it says I can deploy passport for work policies to Windows 10 devices managed by the config-man client. And then this will go ahead and check when it's been completed. I need to scroll over further so I can scroll inside. And there you see some 1603 stuff, some 1602, 1601 stuff. So a lot of things, and here's the one that's completed. Limit access to the clipboard and remote control sessions, one of one completed. So if I expand that one out, you see it's got the old check mark. I've completed that because I've enabled the prompt user for shared clipboard file transfer permission, which is actually the default setting, but I could turn that off if I wanted. So these just let you look at and play around with scenarios that may become and features that may become part of the future product. There's no guarantee they'll get there, but they're pre-release stuff that the product group wants you to test out, wants you to provide feedback on so that they can see if people like those features and if they're ready for what they call prime time. Let me see if I can, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me get rid of these guys. Get rid of this one. That's not what I wanted to do. Go back here. There we go. So you can see in the title bar, it says System Center Configuration Manager TPS Technical Preview Site, and it says Evaluation, 60 days left. I just upgraded to 1604 yesterday. It was down to 34, 33 days, whatever it was. So you got 60 days of life on a technical preview site. Now, Microsoft did just release a new TP, or technical preview, baseline build a couple of months ago. That was part of System Center 2016 Technical Preview 5. They released a new build, and that lets you run its TP5. It's 1603, I think that's what that build number was when it came out. And that lets you go for 90 days instead of 60 days on your technical preview environment. That just means that you have to update to some build within that time frame. It doesn't mean you have to take all of them, but just some build. So let me show you here. If I go back to administration, then I scroll up to cloud services. This is again technical preview, updates and servicing. You'll see that, oops, got to go up a little bit higher, that technical preview 1604 is installed. That's what installed yesterday. And I've got 1605 that just came out last week that's available now. So I could go ahead and right click and go through the installation process to update to 1605 if I wanted to. But you've already seen how the update process works. So it's the exact same process for a technical preview environment, just that they're on a monthly basis and time bombed versus the 3 to 4 month basis, so semi-quarterly basis, and no time bomb in your production environment. But you will see different updates there that are available to you. Okay, let's go look and see how our production environment is going. And let's take this and do a refresh. Okay, it says we're installed. And if I go back to the show status and I do a refresh, so installation succeeded. So my update pack has been installed, but that doesn't mean it's all done. So if I go back to Task Manager here, go look at our details, we'll see that CCM setup is running right now. So it's in the process of installing the management point. You can see that if it stops rolling around, roll setup.exe is running, and that's the executable that kicks off the management point installation. So my management point is being installed, but I do have, as you see down at the bottom, my configuration manager site server services back, site component manager and SMS executive. So the site server's back up and running. We're right now in the process of upgrading the management point. So that we're almost to the end point. And that looks like it's just about done now because the role setup just went away and CCM setup went away and CCM exec's back. So our management point's back up and running. So at some point in time, fairly quickly here, what should happen for us is that when you go clicking around in the console to do anything, what will happen eventually is that we'll get a notification up here that there's a new console build. It will notify me automatically that I have a new build of the configuration manager console available to me, and then it will prompt me to go ahead and do the upgrade of that console. So that's going to happen fairly quickly for me. Right now, if I go to help about, oh, there it goes. So here's that notification saying a new version of the console is available. 8355 is a new build. I'm running 8325. So 1602 on the top, 1511 on the bottom. And it suggests that you should not work with the old console. So what I'd want to do is I'd want to click OK. You see it shut down the console. It's now downloading the new console files for the 1602 console. Then it's going to kick off the installation of that 1602 console and restart it for me automatically. Now, once you've gotten onto 1511, so if you're all on the platform where I was sitting at when I started this demonstration, and you have remote configuration manager consoles, they will get notified as well. So you don't have to go out there and manually upgrade your remote config man consoles anymore. It's going to happen for you automatically. Now, there's a caveat there that the local user that sees that notification and clicks the OK button like I did has to be a local admin to update those. So not everybody's going to be able to do that, obviously, because you have some non-admins there, but the vast majority of your people should be able to go ahead and kick off that process. All right, so this is going to take a moment for the console to upgrade and then get reinstalled and then start back up. So we're going to go back to slides, and we'll come back here in just a moment. We'll see that finished off. Okay, so now client piloting. If you remember when I kicked off this update pack, it said that there were new configuration manager client. This client piloting feature is a great way for you to test new client builds prior to rolling them out to the masses. And if you remember, I did initiate that. I stated I did not want to update without validating. I wanted to do pre-production testing. I designated the collection called all servers as my pilot collection. So this allows me to test out the new client version on a limited subset of my clients in production, but without rolling it out to everybody. If I were to go out there and install a brand new client, it would still install the 8325 build or 1511. Only those clients in my pre-production testing collection that I designated are going to get the new build. So I designated all servers for my pre-production test collection. This is going to be automatically basically pushed out to those clients in that collection. So those 3 computers are going to get a policy that forces them to run CCM setup from this special update location that I'll show you in a moment. They're going to automatically update to 8355, in this case, 1602. I have in-console monitoring that will let me see the status of that. When I actually have validated that, yes, my new client works great, I can patch, I can deploy software, I get client health data, compliance settings works, whatever it is, I can then very, very easily move my pre-production client build to the production client build. And I'll show you what that looks like here as well. So let's go over there and see. Okay, there's my new console. And now if I go back to help about, we'll see that we're running 1602 now, 8355, both the console and the site. So we've got the new version running here. If I go to the devices node, one of the new things you'll see in 1602, very simple little thing, but very cool. If you go look at your devices, and if you zoom in on them, you can see they got a little icon on them now. And you can see that 3 of them have a little green check mark or green circle with a white check mark, and the other 3 have white X's. These are actually online clients right now. So it's telling me that, yes, we have this activity state, but this is just in the last 7 days have these guys checked in. This green and white check mark is saying in the last 10 minutes, these guys have checked in. So they've been on the network talking to the management point in the last 10 minutes. So these will fluctuate, obviously, as clients come up and down. So very, very cool little thing that was added in 1605, or 1602, I'm sorry. Okay, so now client piloting. So if I go back to hierarchy configuration, let me go to site configuration, site, and then hierarchy settings. And if I go to client upgrade, down at the bottom half of this dialog is the pre-production stuff. And you can see pre-production is turned on because I did so in that wizard to install my update pack. And I said to do all servers. So this gets updated automatically for me. So what this does for me, let's see if it's completed the process on my end. And it hasn't yet. There's a little timing thing here. I'm going to go ahead and cheat the system. In an hour, this would update on its own, but I obviously don't have time for that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Hierarchy Manager. I'm going to restart Hierarchy Manager. You see right now it's running. I'm going to tell it to stop. It stopped. Now I'm going to tell it to start. Oops. And it's running. Okay. And this would, you could use the service connection tool, not the service connection tool, inside the console. You can start and stop services inside that. But what this did for me, got this new folder out here called Staging Client. So the Hierarchy Manager is the component that's going to detect that my update pack is installed, and I'm doing pre-rec client testing, pre-production client piloting. So now if I go look at this, and if I zoom in, you see that my CCM setup in this folder, Staging Client, is build 8355. So this is a special location that nobody knows about. Obviously, ConfigMan knows about, but your normal clients don't. Your normal clients get installed from the client folder. If I go to the client folder and hover over CCM setup, you see that it's 8325. So if we were to build a brand new client, install a brand new client, it would get 8325 because that's basically where the DP and MP get the bits from, is this location. My pre-prod clients are told to go to this location and use this build of software. So they're going to get 8355 as the client build. So next time those clients retrieve policies, they're going to go ahead and do their upgrade. So let me monitor that, and then I'll go ahead and kick off a client upgrade. So go to monitoring, go to client status, where you see client activity and client check. There's now 2 new nodes for you, production client deployment and pre-production client deployment. So if I click on production client deployment, it shows me that right now I got 4 compliant clients, and 2, that light green, are in progress. What that means is I have 2 clients that have already detected that they got the policy to say, hey, you're supposed to upgrade to 8355. So let me go to pre-production client deployment, and here you can see that it's not showing that yet. So it should kick over here momentarily and give me the 2 light green to say in progress. I'm actually surprised it didn't show my in progress. Here it shows my build number, 8355. It shows me my collection on the far right-hand side, all servers. Whereas if I go back to production client deployment, it tells me my build number is 8325. So a different build number. Now if I look at these 2 that are in progress, these are hot links. If I click on that, it'll create a sticky node for me. And it tells me that it's member and primary right now, they're in progress. So they're in progress of being upgraded. So that means if I go to my domain controller and pull policies from him, he just happened to retrieve policies on his own. If I go to my domain controller, nope, that's member server. So he should have, yeah, CCM setup is running on my member server. It got the policy to say upgrade right now. So if I go to my domain controller, it should be this one then. Yeah. And he's not running. He's just running CCM exec. If I go and pull policies, what I want to do here is show you that's going to download a file into CCM cache. So I got nothing in CCM cache right now. I'm going to go ahead and go to Control Panel, System and Security, Configuration Manager, and you see it's 8325. I'm going to tell it to do machine policy retrieval, run now, and momentarily he should get a folder here, number 1 probably, and inside that should be CCM setup, and CCM setup would be for the 8355 build, assuming all is working as expected here. And he is in that, should be in that collection. So unless my management point is being reinstalled on my site server end of things, let's go see what the status is of that guy. See if I got, oops, site server, go back to control, go back to, oh yeah, my management point's down right now. Role setup, kick back in. So for some reason, role setup, kick back in, probably because we're doing the client upgrade. So I need to wait till my wait for my management point to get back up and running. Sorry about that. Sometimes that happens when you do a client upgrade. It detects and it has to shut down, obviously, your management point because it's a common code base on the site server. So it's updating the client build and it has to reinstall the management point at the same time. So we're in that kind of limbo state there for a second. So he will go ahead and update. Oh, but notice that your those custom console things, remote manage, is still there after the console uninstall and reinstall. And if I go to device collections, I have my announcement to the config man ticker. So any of those third-party tools that you integrate into your console should be there after your update of your console process. So cool. So we'll come back and we'll look at him and yeah, role setup's running and MSI exec is running. So he's in the process of doing some stuff there. So we'll have to come back and see if we get him. But you saw the process. Just for grins, in the event that my management point doesn't get back up and running, at the very end of this, let's just say that my process here showed all my pre-production clients were all good to go. So they were all good. And I'm going to ignore that. I had done all my validation and things were good to go. Now what I could do is go back to administration, go back to cloud services, updates and servicing, my update package installed obviously, and now I just go to this action of client update installation. So I just choose that action, and all I would have to do is select this one checkbox. I am ready to make pre-production client version available to production. So it says I'm going to take this guy right here, 8355, and I'm going to make him available, replace him, that guy. So I'm going to make 8355 the new production client instead of 8325. It's just a simple matter of selecting the checkbox, clicking OK. Then what happens when I do that is that the, oops, go back here, the staging client folder gets copied up to the client folder. So it replaces it. And then that will kick off an update to the distribution point and the management point for the new client build. And then I go ahead and upgrade my clients, whatever method I want to upgrade my clients. So it's a simple process from there. It looks like my management point is back up and running now. So now if I were to go back over to, we'll just do one last thing. We're at the top of the hour, so I need to get to Q&A for you guys. Oh, there's my folder. So there's there's CCM setup. So now I should have task manager should be running and CCM setup is running. So now it has kicked off the 8355 client build on my domain controller. So right now I should theoretically have all three of my computers that are in some sort of a process here for, here you can see I got one compliant and I got two not started, just waiting for status messages. So status messages to state that they're in progress or that when they're completed. So that's how you track that. Okay, so that is it, and pretty much right at the top of the hour, so not too bad. So I'll kick over to Q&A in just a second. So this is the quick summary for you. System Center Configuration Manager is the latest release of Configuration Manager. So it replaces the ConfigMan 2012 release. I had a webinar earlier this year on all the new cool features in it and so on, and then another one on how to upgrade to it. It will be updated, I state in quotes here, automatically without cumulative updates or service packs, approximately every 3 to 4 months. If you use the online mode, that's the automatic portion of that. If you want to do the manual mode, that's offline. So offline mode, you can go ahead and run things when you want to. These updates will be made available again every 3 to 4 months to your production environment. However, you don't have to install one. So if I do an impromptu thing here real quick for you, if I go back to the updates and servicing node, let's say I have 1602 here and ignore the fact that it says installed. Or even better yet, let me go back to my RDP session right here. I have 1605 that's available. I do not have to install 1605. I can wait for 1606 or 1607 or 1608, whatever is appropriate. These updates are cumulative. As you saw in the what's new here, in a technical preview, it has 1604 stuff, it has 1605 stuff, or in this case 1604 is what's got installed, 1603, 1602, all the way down to 1512. Same thing for your production environment. It just doesn't have the what's new node, but it's cumulative. It will stay up to date with all the previous releases. So you can skip a release. You can skip 2 releases if you want to. Now in technical preview, you have to remember you have expiration. So you have to make sure you upgrade before your site expires. Otherwise, there's no way to do an upgrade. You have to reinstall. In your production environment, unless you're running the evaluation version, there's no need to worry about expiration, but you do have the support statement is 1 year of life. So let's say you install 1511, you have to update it to some other build sometime in 2016. So before the end of this calendar year, you will have to have updated it to 1602 or 1606 or 1610, whatever the build numbers wind up being. We know 1602, obviously. You have 1 year of life on a build before it goes out of support. That does not mean it stops working. It just means you're no longer within the support statement. So just remember that. Usage data is key to the update process. That's your telemetry data. It's collected automatically. You don't have a choice in it other than what level of data you want to send. But that data has to be sent to Microsoft in order for you to download any new updates. And client piloting is really cool, as you saw here. It's a really cool feature. Between this whole feature, the updates and servicing feature, and the client piloting, my favorite feature in the new release of the product. So I really, really like that. So a couple more real quick things, and we'll jump over to Q&A for what time we have left. If you want to connect with us, a couple things to be aware of. There's our website. You can go download free products like our Remote Manage and our Configuration Manager Ticker app. If you want to email us, there's the email address. Our Twitter handle, if you're a Twitter guy. As of today, we just launched, you may have gotten an email about it, our new community site. So it's community.cyrusson.com. There's a couple of different aspects to it. One is a Q&A forum, so you can go there and ask questions, or if you know the answer, you can answer somebody else's question. You can also go there to provide feedback to Microsoft, sorry about that, feedback to Cyrusson, offering suggestions for new features and products or new products. So there's a discussions area. There's also a feature request area. And I've got separate feature request areas for configuration manager stuff. So if you have suggestions for remote manage or ticker or other new apps you'd like to see us create, go up there and punch in those feedback items. You can also go in there and vote on other ideas. So if somebody else has already suggested something, you like that, you can go and vote on it. The more votes we see, the higher priority is going to get, because we see, okay, a lot of people want this feature. So very, very cool. Great new thing that we just came out with today. So community.cyrusson.com. Okay, with that, let me go and look at the questions and see what we got here. Looks like we got a few questions. All right. We run Config Manager on a network with sensitive data and is not connected to the internet. Is it strongly discouraged from passing encrypted? Is it strongly discouraged from passing encrypted information from the system to the internet? Is it possible to get these updates from Microsoft without passing telemetry data up to them? You should have heard the answer to that by now, and the answer is no. You absolutely have to send telemetry data to Microsoft in order to get updates. However, you can look at that data with that tool. You could also run a query in your database to see the results of the telemetry data. So it's not that complicated, and it's hash data. So it's not everything. It's just specific things that Microsoft needs to know about your site in order to update it, and what type of clients and so on you have there. Would I recommend doing TestDB upgrade during this upgrade, from Jose? And the answer is yes. You should still do TestDB upgrades prior to your updates. Now, because you are updating your database. So you are upgrading the database, so I would still do that just as if I was upgrading other builds in like the service packs. Now, the product group actually wants to have TestDB upgrade built into the upgrade process. They're not there yet. So as of yet, I would still do a manual TestDB upgrade process. So yes, I still would do that. Now you're doing smaller upgrade stuff here. It's pretty easy, not like a full going from 2012 to Configuration Manager current branch, but I would still do so, yes. Or is it not necessary after 15.11? You shouldn't have to do it. I would still do it. It doesn't take very long to do, and it does give you a decent idea. It gives you some comfort level. So I would still do so, yes. Where do I download the 15.11 version? Can't seem to find on the volume license site. What is the name of the volume license site? So if you tried last week, they actually did have, maybe it's 2 weeks ago, they actually did have an issue with the volume license site. But it is back now. And the Configuration Manager 15.11 product was gone from the volume licensing site, as well as I think MSDN, got yanked off for some reason. They were updating some stuff, and somebody did the wrong thing and pulled it. So it is back. So yeah, you should be able to get the 15.11 update, 15.11 product from the volume license site for your production environments, yes. If the database is clustered or uses SQL Server always on, does this affect the upgrade process? From Adam. So SQL Server always on availability groups are supported now as of 1602. They were not prior to that, so yes, it would affect that. So you would have had to disconnect or remove the availability groups. And then as of 1602, you can implement SQL Server always on availability groups. It actually was in the technical previews ever since way back last year, but it did not make 1511. It wasn't ready for prime time, but in 1602, they have gone ahead and implemented support for SQL Server always on availability groups. So that is now supported as of 1602. There actually is documentation on the Microsoft website as to new features in all these different builds. So that's a good thing to keep up to date on as well. In your pre-prod and lab environment, I take it these environments are not pointing to prod DB, Jim. That is correct. The only database, the only site that's using your production database is your production site. Your lab environment is not using your production database. Now, I have heard of people doing a backup of their lab or their production database, moving it over to their lab and doing stuff there so they have the exact same data. I'm not, you're testing a backup of a recovery process and doing that. But if it was me, what I'd be doing is I'd have my production environment that is whatever I need to do. I would have a lab environment that's installed the exact same way, the exact same configuration, the exact same build number, but it's a completely disconnected environment from production. So it's not pointing to your production database. It's a separate environment. But it's where I do all my testing of stuff before I roll it out to my production environment. Then I would have my technical preview environment, which is completely disconnected as well. So it's a second, I'll call it a lab environment, but it's not a lab that mirrors production. It's a lab for testing new features from Microsoft and these technical previews. But yeah, they would all three be different environments that you would be looking at and working with. So that is all the questions I'm seeing right now. If anybody wants to fire off any other additional questions here real quickly, I can hang on here and answer those questions for you. We are 12 minutes past the hour. I thank you all for hanging out as long as you did. Hopefully you found it beneficial and worthwhile. This is the way the future is going with Configuration Manager. It is going to this new servicing model. So once you leave your 2007, your 2012 platforms and going up to Configuration Manager current branch, this is how you're going to keep it up to date. So you do need to get familiar with this. You need to make sure you understand the difference between the technical preview environments and your production environments and what builds are available, what releases are available, and the fact you cannot upgrade from TP to prod. You can't upgrade or implement a technical preview build on a production environment. But they're two different environments. Jose is asking if I have any sessions at Ignite. I am going to Ignite. I am supposed to be a speaker there. I've not heard of anything from Microsoft yet as to what presentation, what sessions they want me to give, but I am going to be there, yes. I believe Cyrus is sponsoring there, so we'll have a booth there as well, as far as I know. I know we're sending a ton of people there, and I'm going to be one of them, so I will be there. Glad you guys liked the session. Appreciate it. If you have ideas on other sessions that you want, other webinars you'd like to see me deliver that would be beneficial to you, just go ahead and shoot me an email. I'm always happy to hear from you guys. And that was on the first slide here. Let me go back there for you. Always happy to hear from you guys as to topics you want, webinars you'd like to see or whatever. So feel free to go ahead and shoot me off any suggestions that you have for webinars you'd like to see. And hopefully if you guys can make it to Ignite like Jose is, please feel free to stop in my session or stop by the booth and chat and say hi. Greatly love to hear your feedback on the remote manage as well as the ticker apps and how they're going. They've gotten some great responses, so hopefully those are going well for you. I see nothing else coming in for any questions, so like I said, I'll hang out for another minute or so to see if anybody has any last things they want to ask. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, which I probably should have done already. I should have done